Hey everyone, we are here at the Bell Museum in St. Paul. This is a brand new facility. We're super excited about it. It used to be on the other campus of the U of M. So the University of Minnesota co-owns it, kind of, sorta. And then over here is the St. Paul campus.
And also over there is a lot of open land, and it's land that the agricultural department of the University of Minnesota does their plantings, their teachings. That's where I took my Master Gardener classes many, many years ago. We are Minnesota's official natural history museum and planetarium. Our brand new home on the University of Minnesota St. Paul campus features our famous wildlife dioramas, outdoor learning experiences, and more. See a glimpse of the diversity of life on Earth and throughout Minnesota.
And what's your first impressions?
It's wonderful, it's gorgeous.
Frequent volcanic eruptions release steam, which, over time, condense to form clouds that blanket the Earth.
Can you imagine you were an early man and he was coming up to you and all you had was spears that you'd sharpen yourself out of stone and you were hungry? And this is something that you were going to use for food on the table that night?
All right, so if you think that seeing a giant mammoth in your backyard would be scary, you can also imagine seeing a 7-foot-long beaver in your backyard.
Wow, that's huge.
So in the state of Minnesota, we had 7-foot-long beavers. They existed at the same time as the ancestors of modern beavers today. They didn't live in social groups, and I think that seeing one would be extremely scary.
Yeah.
That's a muskox, so...
Oh yeah.
So that's actually a real animal. Obviously, the beaver and the mammoth were made for us by Blue Ridge Studios here in Eagan, Minnesota. They specialize in stuff. They also help make the costumes for the Chewbacca in Star Wars. Every animal in this museum is real except for the beaver and the mammoth. Everything else is real taxidermy. We can find fossils all over the state of Minnesota from all of these animals. We found them in places like farmers' fields. We found woolly mammoth teeth, mastodon vertebrae, giant beaver mandibles, and muskox skulls. So we know that all of these things did live here during the Ice Age until up about 11,000 years ago. Mammoths are what we call megafauna, which means super large animals, and because they were so large, they couldn't evolve with the times and change, and that's why they went extinct. Their food sources went extinct really fast, and they would have found their food sources using their giant tusks to move snow out of the way so that they could eat anything that they could find. All right, so in the state of Minnesota, almost the whole state was covered in glaciers at one time. We can still see glacial striations in a lot of rocks around the state, so we know that the glaciers were here. And glaciers were really important in forming places like Lake Superior, Lake Michigan, the St. Croix River, the Minnesota River, and the Mississippi River, from all of the glacial dams bursting forth and sending that water coming down into the state. So we can still see evidence of that in places like Minnehaha Falls, St. Anthony Falls, all over the state of Minnesota, so we know that all of these things happened.
The boundary between Canada and Minnesota, there was a ridge of Sawtooth. They're called the Sawtooth Mountains. And I've done...
More like up way right here.
Yeah. And I've done research on them, and it was said that they were as high as the Himalayas at one point. But then the glaciers came and came slowly down, and they wore down the mountains to very little. So much of the area here, they could find crustaceans, sea creatures, because at one time it was all water. So yeah, it's just so interesting. For years, the wolves in Minnesota were hunted down and almost like vermin, because the farmers and homesteaders believed that they attacked their cattle and probably they did, their animals. So they got to almost extinction, and then slowly but surely they have been coming back. And I remember we used to, in the first cabin, we'd lay in bed and we'd hear them. It was a kind of a narrow lake we were on. We could hear them howling across the lake, and that was so cool.
Most pretty sound in the world, don't you think?
It is, and actually this is the state bird. And when
Yeah,
we
it is.
had our cabins up north, we heard them every day, especially at night, going on sundown. They were calling to each other over the lake. It's one sound that any Minnesotan or anybody that's ever heard a loon loves.
And I do a really good loon call.
Well, do it for us.
No, I'm not going to do it. But at the cabin, I used to go to the end of the dock when there was loons near enough, and I would do the loon call, and they would answer me back.
They would.
And everyone thought that was a bunch of hooey, but it wasn't, because they always answered me back.
I watched
fun.
it. You did a good job. Where'd you learn?
It's my claim to fame. And this one says it's from Thunder Bay, which is north of Minnesota into Canada. And I have memories of going up there to the mines with my grandma and grandpa. My grandma would put it through this polishing machine, all the little rocks. And so she had a big glass jar of all these beautiful amethysts. And we paid $5 a person to get a bucket, and we got these little pick things. And I didn't really grasp what we were doing 100%, but looking back, I think it's pretty cool.
Pretty cool. They took you.
Yeah, what a cool adventure. Go up to Canada to go amethyst mining. Way to go, Grandma and Grandpa.
I saw a video of a mama like that. She must have had 15 little ones, and she was trudging along. They were happy as could be. They were
getting a free ride.
any lunch?
Opossums.
Yeah.
They could be pretty nasty.
I don't know. That's what you hear. I think they have a bad rap. Look at those smiley faces.
Oh, look at them smiling.
See, they're smiling at each other. They're having a good time. Mama's smiling.
They're just doing some roughhousing, as kids do.
I've always been interested in fossils too. In fact, I bought our oldest son, both boys, fossils one Christmas. I also bought him socks. And so he said, rocks and socks.
So that was a standing joke, like every year.
Yeah.
Mom's gonna give him rocks and socks.
But I never did again.
No.
This rock, highly magnified. That is gorgeous. Look at all the things that were living and ended up in that rock. Very, very impressed with this beautiful museum.
We just went into the planetarium too, and that was a very, very good astronomy class, really.
Yes, 45 minutes long with a student at the U of M, what is it?
I don't know, astrophysics student? I don't know, something. She knew her stuff.
She really
we were
did.
impressed.
She knew she was studying. Anyway, she spoke for 45 minutes more or less, and she just really informed us about the galaxies, the heavens. It was very interesting.
Yeah, so hey, you know what? Come and check this place out.
Thanks for coming along.
We will see you in the next one.
Alrighty.
Bye.
Bye-bye.